Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Illuminate session, where we're joined by special guest Hilary Burns, who's here to talk about getting real, freedom to create lives that we love. Hilary Burns is a transformational storyteller, author, and the host of the Getting Real with Hilary show, a syndicated TV, radio, podcast platform reaching audiences around 29 TV networks, 65 radio stations, 190 podcast platforms, and over 35,000 YouTube subscribers. She is committed to elevating the consciousness of this planet by helping people break free from limiting beliefs, embrace joy and peace, and create lives they truly love. So thank you so much for joining me here today, Hilary.
You're welcome. This is a real treat.
Yeah, so let's just dive right in. Can you tell us what started this Getting Real movement?
Well, I was in a course, I do a lot of courses, and they said, if you weren't trying to fix yourself, what would you do? And I was like I
Mm,
couldn't even imagine not trying to fix myself. But then I thought something came and it was kind of like inspiring storyteller. So then they said, what would you have to put at risk?
mm,
And we did, I don't know, we did an exercise or something, and it was like my real self. I would have to be real.
mm.
So I came home from that course. I think it was in Costa Rica. And I came home and I was telling my daughter, and she's like, well, why don't you start a YouTube channel? And I'm like, what's that? I didn't even know what it was. She wouldn't help me. I had to figure it out myself, but I did. I started recording videos just and, being real,
Yeah.
like being my real complaining. Um, well, I say that the other me was people pleasing, pretending phony. So it's like, hi.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's fine. Uh-huh.
Yep.
So that was me. And so being able to say like the real stuff was like it's kind of fun. But
Yeah.
it was terrifying to press like send or submit or whatever you do, I forget on YouTube,
Yeah.
but the first one I showed my friends, I showed my daughter and I was like, "Can I do this?" And they were like, "Yeah, it's great." So I did it, and then I like still when I hit, when I do my newsletter and I hit publish or whatever, I'd still like but I
Yeah.
do it anyway, because it's you feel like vulnerable,
Oh,
a little
absolutely.
vulnerable, and it's like, what are people going to think? But that's another part of it is like letting go of what people think because we can't help what people think. And how do we know what they think anyway? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with like trying to get it right. Like there's no book of right. You
Yeah.
can't ever figure it out. It's just,
It's
it's
so
not a
true.
thing.
And it's so interesting to me because I think most of us have, in our younger years, we've become these people pleasers. We've become what we think everybody else needs us to be in order for us to feel like we belong. And then we lose track of who am I underneath all of this shell. And then
Well,
to come out real is like, ugh, what if they don't like this part?
and here's the thing, like this is what I realized was so exhausting. Like I'm just going to put my glasses on so I
Yeah.
can see, but whoa, wow. There you are.
I can
Um,
see clearly now.
yes, exactly. I'm like, wow. It really makes a difference, but I try not to wear them, but then I'm like, why can I barely see? It was funny, the eye doctor, I went there and I was like, well, I have glasses, but I don't really wear them because I don't want to be like dependent on them. And she goes, well, you won't get dependent on them, but you will be able to see better. Touche. Anyway, where was I? So the exhausting part is trying to be this person that I think I should be,
Yeah.
but I don't know what it is. So it's confusing, it's exhausting, and you never know. And then maybe you try that, but that wasn't right. So like the real part is like I'm just real. It's
Yeah.
a lot less exhausting
Yeah. Yeah.
because you're not trying to figure it out. You
Yeah.
just are. Taken
Oof.
me a long time to get to there, but it's just I was like, how do I even know what the other thing is?
Yeah.
Like there's no playbook, there's no rule book, there's no this is the right way to do it, Catherine,
Yeah.
no. And it's everybody else's opinions anyway. So what's more real than real,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
people, one of the things I've learned, if you don't mind me talking, but
That's
I
what you're here to do. So,
oh good. Wow, how exciting. Usually I'm the host, so I feel like, how much can I say? Okay. So, in the people pleasing mode, and I was going out of my way to be nice to these people and at work. And you know what? Those are the ones that ended up throwing me under the bus anyway.
Mm, yeah, yeah,
So that it wasn't really real of me because I really didn't want to, but I did it because I thought that was quote unquote what was expected of me.
yeah. Yeah. So would you say then, because it's kind of my belief that it's like no one else rejects me, I reject myself first. No one else really is, putting me under the bus. I actually put myself under the bus first, by doing these things that I didn't want to do, but I said yes to it anyways.
Yeah,
And then I'm like, oh, I can't believe they should know how much I sacrificed. Well, why the hell did I say yes to it?
right. Right. And getting upset that we're not appreciated.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's
They
like, I
probably
need
didn't
to
ask for it.
appreciate
Well,
me
they did ask,
first.
but yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like that. It's like that instinct lever. If it's going, trust it
Yeah.
instead of going, yeah, but and doing it anyway. Trust it, right? I mean,
Absolutely. And so, what did you notice shift for you from that very first YouTube video that you posted? And how did that kind of shift internally and also externally in your life?
well, that's a good question. I'm thinking, I did write my 3 books.
Yeah.
And I guess probably this was the first thing. So that was fall of 2019. And then this came out, took me 7 years to write it. The second piece of French toast, it's my memoir. And
Okay.
this took, I mean, it was funny. Well, it's not funny, but I'd worked so hard on it and, I did my own cover, as you could see. It's not fancy, but self-published. I didn't know how to do it, but I did it anyway. And then like after it was out, I was like, oh my God, people are going to read this. Like I hadn't gotten past trying to get it published. And when my friend, this girl was like, well, you should have thought about that before, because it's very raw. I mean, it's
Yeah.
very real. I say a lot of things I didn't think I'd ever tell the world that I did. And that, but I did it. And you know what? When I was in a writing course because I thought, you write the book, you publish it. It was like, well, maybe you need to learn how to write first. So I went to writing courses for years, and they were very supportive. And when they heard my story, they were like, wow, you got to tell this because there's a lot of people who are in this situation who aren't talking about it, who
Yeah.
think it's only them.
Yeah.
And I wrote it so that in case there's one other person stuck like I was, that I could inspire them, and hopefully I have. I mean, it's been out. It's not, it hasn't gotten, I didn't really like the marketing part. I didn't like that part. So I kind of
Yeah.
stopped. And it was right before COVID. I just kind of gave up and it said I wrote 2 other books instead of market and didn't really market any of them. But I liked writing them,
Yeah.
and I figure they'll get in the right hands of the people who need to hear the message.
Absolutely. And did you find it to be a therapeutic process as you were writing it, especially that first one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the funny part. When I first wrote it and I sent it to this friend of mine who's a public in the publishing business, and she was like, nobody buys memoirs and blah blah blah. And then but another thing she said, or maybe it might have been Elizabeth Gilbert, somebody who wrote memoirs. It could have been the car person. I forget her first name. Anyway, they said you really shouldn't write a memoir for 7 years because you're too close to the incident. So this book took me 7 years to
Mm,
rewrite and get published, and it was about my marriage when I wasn't. I was just felt stuck, like.
yeah.
I didn't know what to do, but in the process, it inspired my second book. Well, when I gave the first book to someone to read, to proofread for me, or not to proofread, but to copy edit or whatever, one of her statements was, about my life. Why didn't you speak up?
Mm,
I was like, what do you mean? I didn't even realize I wasn't. So that one inspired the second book, which was Real Talk. But in the process of those 7 years, when I first started it, and I didn't know I was going to get divorced. I ended up getting divorced, but in the process of the book, I really just wanted to get myself back
Yeah.
because before I got married, I was this happy, fun, popular, successful girl in New York City.
Yeah.
And at the time that I started writing it, I was this stuck little
Mm.
frozen creature.
Yeah.
And, one of the first scenes, I went to a reunion in high school, and one of the guys was like, Hillary, Hills. They called me Hills. Hills, you were so much fun. I was like, I was fun. Like I had totally forgotten. It's like
Mm.
I had been, you could call it brainwashed.
Yeah.
What's the other word they call it? Gaslighted,
Yeah.
into thinking there was something wrong with me and everything was my fault.
Yeah.
When I first started writing it, I blame my now ex because,
Yeah.
of course, that's what we do, right? But
Yeah.
by the time I got through those 7 years, I had started a new life. I'd gotten, part of it was the finances, gotten my finances together and stuff like that. And I got to see my part in it.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
don't like to see my part in it, but
Nobody does.
nobody does. Yeah, but it took two. It was the right thing.
Yeah.
It was good. We got, two beautiful children out of it. We're friends. It's like having a brother. We get along fine. And
Yeah.
I got to the other side of that. Like, there's no anger. People are like, "How are you getting along with him?" I'm like, he's a person,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
one of the biggest lessons of it was that had been waiting for him to change so I could be happy.
Mm.
And I finally realized, oh, why should he have to change? He should be able to be himself, right?
Yeah.
But I don't have to do that. But I don't have to stay. I don't have
Yeah.
to be with that anymore. It's
Yeah.
fine. God bless. But it wasn't working for my soul, and my freedom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people who go through that in their relationships where they're almost holding out hope that the partner is somehow going to change somewhere down the line. But I mean, you can lose yourself completely in that
Yeah.
kind of waiting for them to change.
Yeah.
So then, what gave you the courage, I guess, to pursue the divorce or to move forward with ending that relationship? Did that come through writing the book?
Probably. Because some of it was scenes in the book where I started, I had been keeping it all in, everything's fine, people pleasing, pleasant
Yeah.
pony. And then, by accident, actually, it's a scene in both books. I was at the hairdresser's and
Therapy session.
yeah, she was running late, so I was drinking wine and I was getting mad, but then the wine started relaxing me. I was reading, but I mean, it was probably 10 at night. This girl, she ran late. I don't know what was going on with her, but she had helped me grow my hair longer. I'd had it really short after the kids, and she was trying to get me to be more of a lady, like because I'm
Yeah.
more of a sports, person. So
Yeah.
she was helping me grow my hair. So I felt a little bit of loyalty. So I stayed drinking the wine. When I finally get in her chair, she's like, "How you doing?" And I started crying, and she's like, "What's going on?" And I was like, that my ex didn't want to have sex with me. And she was
Yeah.
like, "What?" And then I said, I know it's my fault, but, and she's like, "Wait, wait, 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 wait. What do you mean it's your fault?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "I just figured it was my fault."
Mm.
She's like, "Hillary, you know, men like sex." And she asked her boyfriend who was over folding towels for some reason, "Michael, don't guys like sex?" He's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Have you ever said have you ever said no to sex?" And he was like, "No." So it was the first time that I saw that, oh my God,
Yeah.
maybe this isn't me.
Mm.
Now, that sent me on a path in the book, which you'll read, that, I never thought I would go on, but I did,
Yeah.
thinking that was that was the only thing missing, you know. And it was just a process of seeing what wasn't working, what I could do about it, what actions I could take.
Yeah.
I mean, in my third book, which not to keep plugging my books, but why
No,
not?
go ahead.
I
Yeah.
wrote them.
Yeah.
This one is called Your Bullshit is Your Blessing.
Love it.
How to stop fixing yourself and start having fun. So what I saw was I had been trying to fix myself, thinking everything was my fault. The sex was
Yeah.
my fault, blah, 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 if I, whatever. And when I stopped thinking that, so I saw like there was this other side of life where everything was like dark and, you know, everything sucked. There was nothing I could do, hopeless, powerless, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that was the left side of life. And then there was this other side that I started seeing, in the process of writing the book where, I went to the library and took out books. I started doing Zumba. I did a step class. And like I started having joy again. And it was
Yeah.
like, wow. So what if I could spend more time over there?
Mm.
So I started discovering ways of having more fun in
Yeah.
my life. And I came up with this three-part program or system. First, you got to be aware. Okay, I'm back on the left side again. Everything sucks. Okay, great.
Yep.
I can accept it. It's not wrong that I'm there. I can accept it. And now what action can I take? And that's, because aware, if you're not aware, I wasn't aware for all those years. It was just the way life was. I
Yeah.
was fine.
Yeah.
Fine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Fine. I'm fine.
Well, and I think that's such a moment of reckoning for people when I'm going to say the blindfold comes off
Yeah.
and you realize, like, oh my God, my life has been a lie in a certain context, and it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah. Like I think I would say like I lost my power. I
Yeah.
felt powerless and hopeless.
Yeah.
Because was it a lie? No, I was doing the best I could,
Yeah.
or I would have done something else. You know what I mean? Like, um, and if you take the spirit and the karma and the soul stuff, that was my path to be able to start getting real or
Yeah.
um like embrace my negativity. Like I wake
Yeah.
up negative. I thought I could stop that or fix it, but now I'm like, hey, you know what? That's my gift. I'm very empathetic, I'm very
Yeah.
compassionate. If someone's negative or upset, I'm like, give me more, baby. Give me more. Don't hold back.
Yeah.
We got to get it out. But people think they're supposed to be happy all the time.
Yeah.
Well, where did that come from? I mean, I know mine came from my mother.
I was just going to actually ask, like, was this something that you grew up with as a child? Because I know for myself, there was a lot of like, if your anger comes up, you need to calm down.
Yeah.
You don't be so angry. You don't be so negative. What are you going to create if you're this negative and whatnot? And it's like sometimes my anger just needs to come out. Not
Yeah.
that I'm creating with my anger, just I need to
No.
express it.
Right. Yeah. And if you're frustrated, you're frustrated. Like,
Yeah,
I think, those negative emotions, I think, when I had them, in my marriage, well, I was numbing myself. That's the subtitle of the first book. If marriage was my dream, why was I numbing myself?
yeah,
So I was numbing those feelings. I didn't even know I had any. I was fine, right? I was fine. Um,
yeah,
but I was numbing them with, by the time Friday came, margaritas and nachos seemed like a good thing to have, or pizza and beer, or bacon cheeseburgers and but
yeah,
Friday, the rest of the week, I was back in, I was doing it, I was gonna fix this thing. And I thought my only problem was weight, but it wasn't. It was numbing those feelings.
yeah.
So I didn't even know I had them,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah,
Like when I stopped and I went to Weight Watchers, that's a whole nother story, but and I stopped eating my feelings, it was like, oh, what is this?
yeah,
Oh, my life kind of sucks. It was
yeah,
a lot easier to think that my problem was weight than it was to deal with how unhappy I was in the marriage and how
yeah,
there was stuff that wasn't working. It was a lot easier. Weight, we know what to do. Boom, boom.
yeah,
Go on a diet. And so that was like a big moment too, that was another real moment was, am I gonna do something? But the moment in the hairdresser was a big one because I had been blaming myself.
yeah,
I thought it was all my fault. If I had just been better, if I had been like, this person who trained her husband, why didn't I train my husband? Why did, all this stuff. So that was like probably one of the first steps to getting out of the stuckness.
yeah,
And then, by accident, I had a conversation with some friends and, they were talking, blah, 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 blah. Finally, they're like, how are you? And I was like, You guys are talking about doing this. I'm like, but we don't even have the money for that. Like, he liked to borrow money. I hated it. I hated it. And I didn't want to spend any. And it was just, listening to them talk. So then they were like, oh my God, we had no idea. And then they were like, you know, why don't you talk to someone? So I tried a therapist. I
Yeah.
fired her after 3 sessions though,
Okay.
but it was perfect. She she was not good, but she was perfect because I realized I was being a confused victim. She was treating me
Okay.
like a confused victim, like a victim, because that's the way I was acting.
Okay.
And I was like, thank you for having me see that. And I'm not coming back. And so I stopped being a victim and I started taking back my power after that.
Yeah. And I
So it
do
was all a
believe there's,
process.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
being a victim for a part of that process as you move from being in a marriage, going through divorce, and there does
Yeah.
need to be a part where it's like, I'm the victim here, and we need that compassion for whatever
Yeah.
that experience has been to be able
Yeah.
to move to that more kind of, I'm the thriver now, I'm the survivor out of
Yeah.
this marriage.
Yeah. And it was taking little steps to take back my power and
Yeah.
not see myself as a victim. It was more that I saw myself as one.
Yeah.
I wasn't really one, except in my story. I could have taken it back anytime.
Yeah.
I just wasn't aware. That's why awareness is the first step for
Yeah.
me. Oh,
Absolutely.
here I go again. Confused victim is back. Woohoo. But once I see it, then okay, I can accept it and then take an action to get out of it?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
do you find that confused victim, just because you're using that label right now, do you find that it still pops up for you now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Is it,
yeah.
I always
Yeah,
feel
but,
like everyone talks about we just kind of get to this point where like this old part of
yeah,
us
and it's
doesn't show
gone.
up.
No.
And it's like, okay, how did you get there? But
Yeah. And the trick is to recognize it sooner.
yes, yes,
What I know when I start talking a certain way and I'm complaining about this one and what they did, and it's like, oh, hi.
you're back again. Okay.
Hi. Hi, hon. Welcome back. I call her, I started one of the techniques in the bullshit book is you name your other person.
Yes.
So mine is pathetic Patty. It's like,
Okay.
Patty, come on in. You're back, because
Yeah.
she really, because I hated feeling that feeling of patheticness. But now
Yeah.
I'm like, hi, Patty. Come on in. Let's have some coffee together.
I
Right?
actually think that that is one of the greatest things that someone can do for themselves is actually give a name to those parts that show up
Yeah.
because it allows space for a conversation to happen. I named mine Kevin because I
Kevin.
had, yes, there's a whole story behind it. I'm going to share it because it is funny to me now. But it was about, I think back in 2018, and my husband and I were in Los Angeles for a weekend retreat with Kyle Cease, and we were like diving deep into the heart, and it was called the Love Rising event and whatnot. And my abandonment wounds were like coming
Yeah.
way up in such big ways. And I was, crying about things. We're going back to our hotel room, and I'm like, "Ugh." My abandonment is like, being as dramatic as possible about how alone I've been my entire life or whatever. And I said to my husband, because my husband said to me, you realize this is your ego that's showing up right now, right? And I was like, yeah, I get it. It's my ego. We get into the hotel room and I open up the door to the fridge and I pull out a Coke. And I was like, maybe I should just call my ego a name so I can like just sit and have a conversation with it. And the Coke can said, hi, hi, my name is Kevin on it. And I was like, okay, so maybe I'll just call my ego Kevin. And then my husband was like, Kevin, like the mom on Home Alone, when she realizes that Kevin's not on the airplane. And I was like, and he was abandoned too. And
Yes.
so I was like, okay, my ego's Kevin. From now on,
I
that
love
abandoned
that.
part is Kevin. So
I love that.
yeah. So we can have pathetic Patty and Kevin that
Yeah. Well, one of the things that a friend of mine taught when I really get stuck is the Gestalt method. Have you ever done that?
no.
So you go like, okay, you start talking to yourself. And I've done it while driving. People probably think I'm nuts, but they don't know that I'm not on the phone. So it's like, what are you doing? Why are you sabotaging me like this, right?
Yeah.
Well, because I'm afraid. It's usually fear because I'm afraid. Look what you did. You lost so and so who was a narcissistic psychopath, but
Yeah.
this little person was like blaming me. So, anyway, and it always goes down to fear and don't worry, we're in this together, and then and then the sabotaging actually stops.
Yeah.
So it's like you're talking to yourself. Well, you are.
Yeah.
But this
Yeah.
other part, and it's interesting what comes out, like I'm just scared, you lost this and you lost this person, I'm afraid. It's okay, we can do this together.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. And then it actually comes out. It's really weird, but it seems to work. So
So I,
if
I
you're
actually
doing,
have done something similar to that, but it was like in third person. So it was like working with someone else, and they'd say, okay, so what's the problem? And I'd go, well, Catherine is, experiencing this deep fear right now. And the fear is connected to this, and this is what she wants, and whatever it might be. But it actually helped me to understand what was going on by just removing myself, because then it's like I'm
yeah.
talking to you about this friend that I have, and of course I've got
Mm,
the greatest insight and advice for this person in my life, but I can't
wow.
apply it to myself.
Right.
So yeah, similar idea but a little bit different.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
sometimes I think writing helps. I used to have friends, this was a long time ago, where I could just talk to their voicemail and I could just go on and on and on. And now I do TikToks. Like I'll just record a TikTok when I'm stuck,
Yeah.
you know. And by the end of it, well, sometimes I've deleted them like 10 times, but by the end of it, I get some freedom. And
Yeah.
that's, one of my things is that people are free to create lives they love, including me. So
Yeah.
when I'm not free, I try to do something to get more freedom.
And would that be your advice to people then, is to actually find a way to express wherever they're kind of feeling stuck so they can move into freedom?
Yeah, actually, this book. This book is all about there's a getting real process in it. It's a very tiny book. Um, and there's a getting real process, and it's a way of actually saying that stuff. And, if they can go on to my website and actually book a consultation with me because I've been there.
Yeah.
And, it's not easy to say those things that you're terrified to say.
Yeah.
I have examples in here. I mean, it really is terrifying, but there's a way to say them that works better than others. I've done
Okay.
the wrong ones, and that's a process, but I'm happy to help anybody because I know what it's like to be stuck, and it's like you're really not in your life, you're in this problem or issue, and you're not able to create your life when you're stuck. So by
Absolutely.
getting out, by being able to say the stuff, and I had another course where we had like the second week or whatever was you say your story and you don't edit yourself. You just get to complain and wail and moan and get it out because once you get it out, then you can create something new in its place. But
Yeah.
when you keep it in, that's what's kind of mucking it up. It'd be like if you had a big meal, you're not going to put another meal in there, so you want to you want to get it out.
Yes.
Probably not a good example, but yeah.
And I think it's a great example because you can get constipated with all of the things that you're not actually expressing, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I mean, I've had conversations with bosses that I never thought I would have, but
Yeah.
but just I do a lot of transformational work, and so it's a lot of conversations. And I remember one time I was going into this meeting with my new boss, and I was just like, I didn't want to go. So I said, I feel like it's like I'm just like I'm gonna lose, like he's gonna win, I'm gonna lose. I didn't want to go. I always end up crying. I don't like this guy, blah blah blah. And so I was in a conversation with this woman, and she was like, "Well, what can you create a new context?"
Mm.
And I was like, "Yeah, like empowered team. Like we're all on the same team. Let's empower each other." And so I went into this meeting, and he was like, the first thing he said was, "Well, I just want to let you know how great you're doing." And like, wow. But if I hadn't have said what was there for me. I was terrified, I really didn't like this guy at all, because of the way I felt that he had treated me, and
Yeah.
I was a victim, and I don't know if I cried or I tried not to cry, but
Yeah.
the boss before that I could cry, he had no problem with it. This guy I was afraid to cry because I didn't want to look weak. But
Yeah.
anyway, you know, by being able to say it and create a new context before the meeting, it was like, oh, this was cool, It was really
Amazing.
different
Yeah.
experience. But it took, like you said, getting out what was in there, which was
Yeah.
bad.
And I know
And
we were talking
yeah,
before we started recording here.
yeah,
And one thing that you said actually really stuck out to me, that where you were talking about these one-on-one sessions that you do. And it's kind of like a freedom session to help people find their freedom because you can see their greatness. But the thing that really stuck out to me is where you were like, it's a no judgment zone. I've been there, I've done that. So you can just let it all out. So can we talk about that judgment piece a little bit?
absolutely.
Awesome. Because I think for a lot of
What part?
people,
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
know, I'm just
Like,
thinking there's a lot of people that they're so afraid to express what they've been through. Even you expressing to the hairdresser, we're not having sex. There's so much shame around sex and
yeah.
sexuality and all of that sort of stuff. And to be able to be met with someone who's able to hold that space for that, I think it's so empowering and so important. And yet not a whole lot of people have that. So yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of shame. And I think, like I'm thinking of Brene Brown's books about
Mm,
shame and, you know, when it's stuck in here or in here, wherever it is, it has a life of its own. And, I didn't want to tell anyone we weren't having sex. Well, of course I'd put on weight, like it was my fault, but that wasn't it. And once I said it out loud, I could create a whole new world to step into. But when it was just here, it was my fault. I was fat and that wasn't even really it because I found out later, that was just his pattern, it wasn't even personal. But in before
mm,
I said it out loud and started looking at it, it was all about me.
yeah,
And so I think the process of getting it out of ourselves, wherever it is, wherever it lives, the head, the mind, our stories are what keep us stuck. And so let's say you were sitting with me and you were saying whatever your story was, we could take a look at it now.
yeah,
Now it's out. And if you don't have someone to talk to, you can write it or you can do a TikTok or you can record it, but just to get it out. And then you get to look and see, okay, which parts do I want to keep any of this story?
yeah,
And but it's a process, and that's the process. But it really does work, but you have to be willing. And so when people talk to me, I don't judge them. I mean, I put my book out there. I always tell people when I give them the book, please don't please don't judge me. Oh, they will if they would do,
yeah,
but because I got it out, and once I got it out, I could see new actions to take.
yeah,
Again, it's being aware. The being aware is being able to say it, I think, and then accepting, okay, that's how I've been. It's okay. Maybe I was a victim. Maybe I was powerless. Who cares? I'm
yeah,
human. I'm
yeah,
human, and it's a natural part of being human. And then, either alone or together, we could see actions to take that would have you not be stuck. One of the big actions I took, one of our things was money. And sorry, my nose runs when I get
oh,
emotional.
good.
Um, I had thought I was being loyal by, having combined accounts. And so one of my friends was telling me how he saved all this money. And I was like, I was a big saver before I got married. And so I went, after I got over feeling disloyal, I went and opened my own account and started saving. I
Yeah,
had to hide it from him because he wanted the money once he learned about it. But that was like a big step of taking my power back.
yeah,
But it was only by having conversations that I even saw that I was stuck there too, you
yeah.
know? Um, and that was a big moment, I remember like sneaking into the bank like I was being a criminal, but
Mm.
I'd gotten a bonus and I went and put it in that account and I was
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's all through conversations. One of my friends has said, there's no transformation in your head. You have to have it in conversations.
Mm,
So having a safe place to speak, someone who's not going to say, well, just be happy. I mean, God bless the Pollyannas of the world. I love them, but I'm not one. And sometimes they can't be with it. So you have to be able to pick the person that you think is going to be able to validate you,
yeah.
not fix you,
Mm,
and say, it's okay that you feel that way,
yeah.
Kevin. It's okay,
Yes.
Kevin, to feel abandoned sometimes. That's perfect. Your
Yeah.
mother did leave you on the plane. She did leave you in New York and all the other times, right? But um, it's okay. And
Yeah.
I think so you got to find the right person because I've had people that was like, well, don't you shouldn't feel that way.
Mm, yeah.
Boom, that just makes me feel worse,
Yeah.
So you got to be careful. So if anybody's stuck, please. You can go to my website, gettingrealwithhillary.com, and I think there's a place where you can schedule a time to talk.
Yeah.
If not, you can email me and I'd be happy to do it. I love helping people because I know how bad it felt, when
Yeah.
I was there and I didn't know. I didn't know I could feel a different way. I
Yeah.
wasn't even aware that because I was fine.
Maybe that's the name of your next book is I'm Fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of us actually use that language when we don't really know how else to describe, like, how do you describe half of the things that you've just shared with us today? How do you describe that with an emotion? It's better to
Yeah.
just label it with I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. Well, because we don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
Like if let's say you're dating a guy and he does something and, I'm so overly sensitive that whatever they did, I would think, well, he doesn't like me. But I couldn't tell him because he would know I liked him,
Mm.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. And I
but that was
often
where
think
I
of
would
like,
you know what I mean? Like, but
yeah,
if you say that out loud, it's like, well, that makes no sense.
yeah,
Well, why would I not want him to know I liked him? Well, because my mother told me that long ago.
yeah.
Don't let a guy know you like him because then he'll leave. Well, so that
Wow.
prevented me from being in a lot of relationships until I saw
Yeah.
that was the rule that was running the show. It didn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
I
But
just thought it was the truth.
it's so interesting how most of us have actually been indoctrinated in some way or another to just act as though everything's fine on the surface. Like it's
Yeah.
like whole keep up with the Joneses, right?
Yeah.
Everything's fine. Everything's good. I've got my husband, I've got my kids, I've got,
Yeah.
perfect
My
family.
dream.
Everything's great. And everything can be crumbling apart on the inside. But when I think of like, TV shows from back in the day and whatnot, it was you're being shown these perfect sets of families.
Yeah.
Yes, even the smile. It's like, and what I find now is there's more TV shows, more movies, even with the invention of TikTok and stuff. There's more people who are showing up as their real selves, and
Yeah.
they're showing like this is my mess. And in that, more and more people are going, "Oh yeah, me too, me too, me too, me too." And there's so much power and freedom and relief that comes in that.
Yeah, what we had an old neighbor who had stopped by my mother's and she was with her boyfriend and so I was telling we have a family chat and I was saying, "Oh, so and so was here with her boyfriend." It was like, "What do you mean boyfriend?" She was so happily married on Facebook. She had the perfect marriage on Facebook, but here she was divorced with a boyfriend. And she probably did. It was probably perfect on Facebook. But it's not the real, right?
Yeah, yeah,
We live like these parallel lives, that where we're trying to act like everything is good. But once you show a little bit, I remember posting in my early days of real stuff and people saying, "Thank you." I've been
yeah,
going through that too. I appreciate your honesty. And that makes me feel like it's worthwhile, to show
absolutely.
my own self that I don't have to pretend because
Yeah.
most of the time I think I'm just crazy, and that was another thing. Like I would try to hide that, especially pathetic Patty. She would get nuts.
We love pathetic Patty.
She's very needy. Ooh, that's like
They
the
all
worst.
are. I
That's
find I always say like my ego is the most dramatic person I know because it's not like, oh, I'm abandoned. It's like, oh, I'm abandoned,
yeah. Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's also okay. That's what I tell myself too, is when that dramatic part needs to come up, it's like giving voice to all of the emotions that I've really suppressed throughout the years,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
allowing myself to be in the drama of it all. And I always feel better afterwards. And I'm like, oh, that was a bad one, but okay.
Well, like when I used to get PMS and I was like nasty, like I had to just put myself to sleep a lot of times because I was so nasty. But it was like, you know what? That might have been my real self,
Mm, yeah.
letting it actually come out, and I didn't have the
Yes.
filters for some reason. The hormones took away my fine filter, so it was
Yeah.
like, but
Yeah.
that might have been the real stuff. Like you're saying, the ego, it's like,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with having emotions because
Yeah.
they tell you something. If you're
Yes.
sad, let's look. Let's
Yeah.
look at that.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was sad. It was something with my mom who was, 95 with dementia. You know what? I was sad. It's
Yeah.
okay. I don't have to, but it took me about 5 hours to get to what it was. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because I'm so used to burying it.
Yeah.
But if you're frustrated, okay, let's look at that. Let's look. Maybe there's some other way you can do this, or let it go, or something. Like it's useful. If you're angry, great.
Yeah.
No one ever told us when we were young we could be angry. That was like wrong.
Yeah.
But what if it's telling you something? There's something not working. Let's take a look at it.
Yes.
I
It's
think
all
it's useful.
information.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I think what you said about PMS there, it is so accurate for myself and so many women that I know. And it's like once that time of the month comes, it's like we finally have the bravery to say everything that we didn't say all month, and it's all coming
For
out.
better or worse.
And I used to always apologize to my husband, the day after when
Yeah,
suddenly I'm bleeding and I'm like, okay. I see what's happening here or whatever. And I'd apologize and I go, oh, sorry, I was so dramatic last night. It's just, I got my period today. So that's what it
yeah.
was. And he'd be like, will you stop apologizing? He's like, it's obviously relevant. There's a reason it had to come up. There's
Wow.
truth in it. Maybe there was a different way you could have said it because, it's
Yeah,
like the way the
maybe,
piece comes out.
maybe.
Um, but he helped me to see that it was all
Wow.
still valid, regardless as to what the hormonal fluctuations and stuff were, which was such a gift because it
Yes.
used to be like, oh, it was my period that was talking, it wasn't me, So
He sounds awesome.
he can be, yeah.
He can
He's
be.
he
Well,
is he is really an amazing man. He truly is, but let's keep it real. He's also human. So,
yeah, but you know what? My not to th not to compare, but mine might have been thought of as just like my gaslighting thing was that I was just always upset. So
mm,
my upsets were just there she goes again. Never heard, never
mm,
validated, and it was just like I started believing,
yeah,
and other people might be in relationships where they start believing they're the crazy one,
yeah,
and I shouldn't be upset. I'm just complaining. I should be happy with this life.
yeah. The
No.
whole nagging wife thing.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I thought I was nuts
yeah,
until I started talking to people who weren't gaslighting me.
yeah, yeah.
But, again, it was the lesson I learned. I'm not a victim anymore. But it
Yes.
was it was what I needed to go through, maybe to help others, who are there, right? That's what
Absolutely,
I think.
absolutely. And so because we're talking about your marriage and him kind of numbing you out to the point where it's like I'm the one at fault here. So you've
Yeah.
got three books, and I'm just going to name out the titles here, and then I want to find out where you got the titles for each of these
Oh,
books,
okay.
okay?
Want me to
So
show them?
sure. So you said the first one is the second piece of French toast. If marriage was my dream, why was I numbing myself?
Hmm.
Okay. And then the second one is real talk, how to say the things you never said so you can have the things you've always wanted. Awesome. And
Yeah.
then the third one is your bullshit is your blessings. And I can't actually read the bottom there.
Oh. How to Stop Fixing Yourself and Start Having Fun.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, where did these titles come from? Because they're so unique and they're all a mouthful.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, the second piece of French toast, it's a story in the book. Like I couldn't think of a name, blah, 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 and it was still on that Costa Rica trip, I think, where I started
Okay.
getting real. And I was giving all these, and I said the second piece of French toast, and they were like, "Yep." I'm like, "Okay." So I did it, and I was trying to come up with a picture of the French toast, but I never could get it. I finally gave up. So but it's a story in the book. You'll have to read
I'll
the
have to
book to
read the
get
book
the
to
story.
understand.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's where that came from. And then the second book, but the numbing myself, I thought that was a good subtitle because at least it would tell people what the book was about.
Yeah.
Marriage was my dream. Why was I numbing myself in case anybody else was numbing themselves? I thought, take a look because you might not. I mean, I think there's so many ways that we can numb ourselves and that we
Yeah.
do, you
Yeah.
know. Drugs, sex, gambling,
Yep. Shopping.
working
Yep.
too much. Yeah, 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 yeah. So I think, by taking a look at it, we can see, okay, I'm not dealing with this. So anyway, so that was that one. This one, I actually worked with this woman who I think Real Talk is a good title because
Yeah.
that's what it's about.
Yeah.
And then it's a long subtitle, How to Say the Things You've Never Said so you can have the things you've always wanted. But I think
Yeah.
it does make sense. And that's what's
Yeah.
in it, this getting real process is about,
Yeah.
especially if you're a people pleaser, being able to say it. I mean, it's frightening.
Yeah.
I still get worried. Oh my God, they're not going to like me. What if they get mad? What if they leave? Still after all
Yeah.
these years. So imagine if you've never been able to speak up. That's what this one was for. And
Beautiful.
then, sorry, this one, I know my nose is running. I hate that. So I thought, the subtitle, How to Stop Fixing Yourself and Start Having Fun, was good because don't we all try to fix what we think is wrong with us?
Yeah.
And what if we didn't have to spend our time doing that and we could have more fun? So that's why the subtitle is there. And then I couldn't think of a title, and someone came up with this for me, and I was like, I like it. And
I do too. Yeah.
my mother thinks it's terrible. You can't swear on a title. Like she's still horrified. And in her dementia, she forgets, that this is not a new thing, but
Yeah.
oh, you can. But anyway, I did it anyway. It took something to be able to put that out there with a swear word in it, but there's so many other books with worse words now that,
Yeah.
it's like not a big deal.
Yeah.
Not a big deal, you know?
Awesome.
Sorry, my nose.
No,
It always
that's
happens.
okay.
It always
You're keeping
happens
it real.
when I cry. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So did that answer the question about the title?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
And
good.
I
Good.
really do actually love the title, Your Bullshit is Your Blessings, right? It's
Yeah.
so powerful.
Yeah, because that's just like my negativity. My mother's thing was, why aren't you perky and peppy?
Mm,
Because I'm not, Mom. But I just always felt like there was something wrong with me,
yeah,
for so long. Like, don't be upset. Why are you letting them get you upset? And so I didn't feel like my story. She says she never said that, but in my story, I wasn't allowed to be upset.
yeah,
So being able to be upset is a blessing.
yeah,
And I can help other people allow themselves to have their feelings, but
yeah,
also to stop trying to fix my negativity, which I'm now using for humor to so that other people can hopefully get some freedom out of my being
yeah,
a human guinea pig. I'm the guinea pig. I use myself, but
yeah,
hopefully to free them.
yeah.
So
When I think it's always so interesting too, where it's like, if you're expressing happiness or you're expressing joy or appreciation or gratitude or whatever it might be, everybody's like, yeah, stay in that. That's good. That's good. That's
yeah,
good.
you're good now. You're being
Yes.
good.
And if you're
Yeah,
angry, it's like you need to get over that. And if you're
right,
sad, you need to move past it. Like you've been crying for a week over this person dying, it's time to move on, you know?
right.
And
Yeah.
it's so interesting because those denser emotions, I don't even like to label them as negative anymore. I just call them denser emotions because they feel heavier in the
I
body
like that.
and happiness feels lighter. So it's like the denser emotions,
Yeah.
it's that much harder to work your way through, right? It's like you're kind of working your way through tar or something instead of floating in water. It's going to be more difficult to move it through your body to express it even. Um, but just giving yourself permission to be there. No one would expect someone that's, stuck in quicksand or something. Well, get out quickly. Get out.
Yeah,
Come on. What are you doing wrong here?
right.
You have to find some sort of level ground to be able to shimmy your way out of that. And
And
so, yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
what I've found is that a lot of people they apologize for it. Oh,
Yes.
like if they start, so sorry I'm crying, or I'm so sorry I'm angry. It's like, don't be sorry, let it out.
Yeah.
Right? Like we've been taught it's bad. It's
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. When it's so uncomfortable, and what I've noticed for myself is the more I've been able to hold space for my own anger, my own sadness, my own grief, my own abandonment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, the easier it is for me to witness it in others. When
Yeah.
I could not hold space for my anger, I could not see
Oh,
anger in anybody else. Do you know what I mean? It was like, oh,
yeah.
that's terrifying, where now
Interesting.
it's like, bring it on. It's a storm. What do you got to say?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Wow.
All righty. So
This has
thank
been
you
great. Yeah, I love
so
this. Thank
much.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you for doing this.
Anytime, anytime. I know
Yeah.
you've got a lot of stuff that's going on. You've got your YouTube channel. And what is the name of the YouTube channel?
Getting Real with Hillary
Getting
with
Real with
one
Hilary.
L. Yep, with
Okay.
one L. Yep.
And you can also be found at gettingrealwithhillary.com.
With one L. Yep.
Yeah, with one L.
And in the like if you want to subscribe to, the YouTube or the newsletter, the top of the channel has all those links.
Perfect.
And that's also where the show is. It's a weekly show where I interview different people. Each one is very different, but they're all inspiring stories about what people are doing. And I one of my other commitments is elevating the conversation and consciousness of the planet together so that we all do it together by putting good news out into, instead of the
Love
news, which
it.
is designed to scare us to death, putting good conversations out there. So that's why I do that. I have 170 shows that I put out. Um,
Amazing.
and each one is, there's some health ones, people who've beaten terminal cancer, people who are working with, I had an autistic young man who came on. I mean, he's doing TED Talks and stuff. It's amazing. It's
Yeah,
amazing what people are doing. Um, I can't even think of the other ones, but they're all really good and they're all different. And so if you don't like one, you might like another one better. So, yeah.
amazing. Amazing. So if anybody's wanting to book a one-on-one session with Hillary, you can go to her website at
Yeah.
gettingrealwithhillary1l.com
Yeah.
or head on over to her YouTube channel. I almost call it a
Yeah.
station,
Yeah.
her YouTube
Yeah.
station.
Yeah.
Um,
Or they could email me if none of that works at Hillary with one L at gettingrealwithhillary.com and then that'll get to me as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then just one last question for you before we hop off. If you could tell the world one thing right now, what would you want the world to know?
That our birthright is joy, abundance, purpose, and passion, and that we are here to have blessed, abundant lives. But just somewhere along the way, our brains got stuck in a parallel universe where it's all about survival and thinking there's something wrong with us. But really, you're perfect as you are, and you have gifts that the world needs. So let's get together and get those gifts out there because that's what the world is waiting for, is for you to be real and give us what you got, baby. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much, Hillary.
Thank you. This was really fun. I could talk to you for hours. So thank you so much, Catherine.